founder of Valuetainment. Patrick, great to have you on. So Mexico and Canada, after all this hot air about, oh, you can't do this, it's going to trade war, they basically just gave up the ghost on this. But Panama did the same. It promised not to renew a deal that it had with China. How significant are we seeing these moves early on from Trump to exercise U.S. leverage? What a difference a few months make.
I mean, that's what leadership is all about. When you think about Canada and Mexico, there's a number that nobody's really talking about, and here's what it is. U.S., out of our GDP that we have, we spend 3.4% of it on our military. Our military expenditure is the highest in the world. So we spend around $950 billion, give or take, on military expenditure. Mexico is the lowest in the world, 0.7% of their GDP, which is only $12 billion a year. And Canada is only 1.3%, which is around $27 billion. Why am I sharing this number with you? They don't need to spend it because they have America that's so powerful that who the hell is waking up thinking about attacking Canada or Mexico? So here's my opinion. I think this 25% that they're wanting to remove, I think it needs to stay because we're providing you protection. We're providing you safety. There's a reason your military is not that strong. You're using that money to invest into other areas. Why are we doing that? If we're doing that to provide safety to you, I think America should at least have a 25% tax tariff, if you want to call it, regardless of whatever happens, simply for the protection President Trump and the U.S. provides Mexico and Canada.
Yeah, I'm not too impressed with the Canadian response, frankly. I mean, the fentanyls are, I don't know what that's going to do. And I guess they'll have a few helicopters flying at the border. I mean, it's not nothing, but they were going to get slapped with 25% tariffs, and now those are gone for at least 30 days. I'm not sure what's going to happen in 30 days. Maybe some other concessions, but I think President Trump saw a huge negative reaction to this, as I know you predicted, I predicted, from Wall Street, from the markets, from all the establishment types. Do you think he reacted to that? Or maybe some of his advisors said, whoa, we gotta rethink this?
I think President Trump is a guy that, in my opinion, likes to ask people, what do you think behind closed doors? But at the end of the day, he's a strategist. He's thinking 5, 10, 15 moves ahead. And he knows he has the leverage card. He's going to be pushing his weight around, and he ought to be, because it's about time somebody on America negotiated on our behalf in ways where we're not being taken advantage of. I love the fact that within 5 days, Colombia came out talking as if they're tough at 3:40 a.m. in the morning. He's sending a tweet. Who knows if he was drunk or not? Then you have Panama coming out. Now you got Canada. Then you got Mexico. And then today Zelensky is talking about the fact that we only got $77 billion. And President Trump is saying, hey, we're going to need some of those minerals if you want to exchange for the money. What he's doing is he's negotiating. And this is a beautiful thing when you have somebody that comes from 50 years on free enterprise, free market. Everything is negotiation. For decades, it's been all about politicians and folks who have not been in business for too much and maybe not negotiating at the highest level. We've been giving things away. I'm ecstatic to see our president negotiate on behalf of you and I, as well as our kids.
Yeah, he's talking about mineral rights on federal lands, too, and all the environmentalists are going crazy on that. But he said, look, we have hundreds of thousands of acres, millions of acres of federal lands. We could be making a huge amount of money off of that. I think you'll see the Commerce Secretary, Lutnick, when he's confirmed. You'll see Bessent, Interior Department, all of them working to maximize and protect America. But that's what Biden was supposed to be doing. He was working so hard, though. Maybe he was going to get to that, Patrick. He was going to get to that protecting America thing right after the nap.
Yeah, I don't think he was going to do that. Listen, I think from day one we knew he was not going to be doing that. But President Trump's put on a great team together. By the way, I foresee him continuing. Some of these ideas he's talking about, Greenland, oh, you're out of your mind. Hey, Canada, 50 for state, you're out of your mind. Another thing to be thinking about, if his camp is watching tonight, we owe Japan $1.1 trillion. It's a lot of money. But we've been having protection for Japan since the 60s when we signed that treaty. 54,000 U.S. soldiers are in Japan right now to make sure they're safe. And we owe them $1.1 trillion. Maybe Japan ought to forgive the $1.1 trillion of debt that we have. And I think that's another thing President Trump can negotiate on behalf of Americans.
Yeah, time to negotiate down all that debt. Patrick, come back soon. Love having you on. Thanks.